Welcome to the Hard Lessons podcast. I'm your host, Charlie, founder of an Oakville-based construction company. Each week, we dive into the world of business, personal development, and the entrepreneurial journey. We'll be talking with successful business owners who've been in the trenches and learned those hard lessons. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take business to the next level, you're in the right place. Join us as we turn hard lessons into stepping stones for success.
So anyways.
And yeah, and what I got out of that for the listener, the biggest thing of opening the guy's eyes or the team's eyes to how it loops around and affects them. And you mentioned whether it's the bonuses or whether it's being more efficient, our revenue per hour is through the roof. So next year, maybe our pays can have a reflect on that. What scoreboards do you use for them or frameworks for them to wrap their heads around things? And how open, I know some guys operate simply their books are fully open to their team. I'm curious your thoughts on that, or how much info is shared with them. Like, where do you guys stand and how do you, keep them in the loop with things and on the same page?
It's tough because I think when the larger your company is, the easier it is to be open book because you can conceal things like owner's salary and with managers or with office staff and things like that. When you're a small company, 3-4 person, 5-6, it's tough to conceal or hide, what the owner's making. And sometimes that's nothing, and sometimes it's awesome. And so, your client or your team needs to be compensated fairly and well, I believe, if they're performing right. And so we are in a transitional year of being fairly open booked to show guys like right now, everybody's got a $5,000 end of year bonus on the line. And we have two metrics they have to hit. One is production. We have to hit X goal of sales for the year, which we're right close to, and we should hit it next month I think we've got to hit 1.1 or 1.2 million, whatever it is. And then so if we hit 1.3, there's going to be an extra bonus. And I talked to one of the guys about that this morning, but everybody's meeting on site. Nobody's coming in right now. Everybody's meeting on site. So we got a team meeting on this next week. Like, hey guys, here's where the books are. Here's where gross revenue is. Right now, if we hit this, everybody's bonus is this. So half their bonus is based on hitting the goal, right? And this is going to morph and evolve over the years too. This isn't like a set thing forever because we're going to figure out how this works out. Then the other half is based off attitude and morale, special events that happen, or maybe, just something. And the other half is going to be based off of a few other metrics, right? That like they may not see the full $5,000 or might have been an infraction or an issue where, hey, we're docking $400 because of this, and this, because it has to do with morale. And it's a subjective thing, right? Right now, everybody's in real good shape. But so that is like, hey guys, I really want to push. We're pushing 50 hours a week here for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And for us, that's working a lot, which, I talked to some of my buddies, they're running companies, they're working like 60 hours minimum, but they're running teams of guys that are like 16 to 25. Our guys are all 40. So, working 60-hour weeks for eternity are not really realistic. But again, that's a whole other cultural thing too we're working on and trying to figure out more through. But
you guys still doing the 4-day week?
So that's something that's going to change. And so we've been doing 4-10s for a long time, and 4-10s is awesome for crew morale. Guys love it. It is great. And I get it. I understand why. What is a problem is again, you start to build a culture where, hey, we got stuff going on and we need you to come in for half day on Friday. And then you start to get pushback and grumpiness. It's like, well, I made plans Friday. Well, then this happened years ago, but it was like, we were like, hey, we got to work Friday. We committed to something. We need to get it done. Well, I made plans. And then, I'm like, well, it's Friday. This is not Saturday. So what I realized as a leader is like, well, we were never clear about like what Friday really is. It's an in-case day. And so moving forward, we had to change policy and set expectations of like, hey, Fridays off are not guaranteed. Even if we're at 40 on Thursday night, like Fridays off are not guaranteed. We have to be open to the potential that we may end up working Friday, even if. And so that was kind of a hard pivot through some things and a couple times. And so we realized and we learned like, look, we're just going to do our darndest to never work Saturdays. And there's still going to be a time where that may happen. So just accept that. Now, the Friday thing, we had to morph through that a little bit and say, hey, look, don't plan stuff on Friday. I'm not going to be the bad guy here because it's a work day still. But so the way this is morphing and the way we're going to start pushing this, I believe, is like we're aiming at, especially through the heat of the summer, I think we're going to be 410s without a doubt. And just the guys get a 3-day weekend through, July, August, and July and August, let's say for sure. 410s. It's miserable hot. Just let the guys have a long weekend, get rested up. But spring and fall, we're going to be very open and transparent to the potential of like, we're going to work 45 hours minimum on during spring and fall, and just for production's sake. But again, the carrot and stick concept of like, well, why? Well, that's going to allow us to hit goals. And when we hit goals and we talk about hitting goals and aiming at goals, and that's something we started the year off with, there's so much to unpack here. But we started off with all of our team members talking about a goal they had. And we would help them understand like, hey, if we do this and this in the company, and tie it to your goals of wanting to pay off your car this year, like, dude, there's going to be a $5,000 bonus at the end of the year. What would that do for you? Like, or 10,000 or whatever the number is. And so you start to tie in like why working the extra hours because again, all our guys are older, they have families, they have children, whatever. So it's like when you're in your 20s, getting guys to work, 60 hours because they don't have families and stuff, it's a little easier, I feel. But as you get older and you get older staff, that becomes a little more challenging, I think, anyways, to get guys to work like nutso hours all the time. And so we're kind of navigating that. And all this stuff may change in a year again. I don't know, but it's just all of what we're navigating here over the last 2 or 3 years, and it's just little things again. And our guys are do great work, and they're trustworthy and reliable. But I've let some things slip culturally that we need to address and make sure that that's like an okay thing. So the reason I share this is to help, the young guys understand like how you set culture in a company, or old guys that are dealing with stuff I'm dealing with. Like we understand like how important work culture is so that we can have do great work, live a great life. And that's what we have written on the walls here at the shop at the office. Do great work, live a great life.
Such a transparent line of like, let's have a party every day and let's have like a shitty environment because my boss is so hard on me and production, let's go. And like we've really struggled with that and bounced from both sides to it. Like this spring and summer were way too nice on the guys, and they would like, there was no consequences. There was no like, they're kind of way too loose. And then we really started cracking down on them, and what that did for morale was everyone was like scared they were going to get fired, and it was awful, and everyone was like out of fear. And then we saw that side as well, where they're like weren't owning up to their things, which slowed people down and pointing the finger, and it was just like a whole reverse circle of stuff. At the same time, the other side, the beginning of the year, was just so loose and so soft, and no one cared, and it was it was a joke, and it was happy, and it was fun, and whatever. But we've really been struggling to find the happy medium of like, yeah, we want you to want to come into work, but we need you to produce and make money. You're here because we're still in business, not because it's a charity, right? And I'm curious your guys' thought on like drawing that line of you want to be respected, not liked. And we weren't that kind of the hard way, but any comments on that?
Yeah, I would say I've had employees over the years that I could tell did not respect me at all or very little. And they find their way out eventually. Right. And so that becomes pretty apparent with how the interactions go and how, performance to requests, I guess, go. And so, the fear thing, yeah, you're right. There's a line there. Like, yeah, everybody should be somewhat afraid for their job, right? I mean, when we're working for clients, I'm afraid for our job. I don't want to screw it up so bad and get kicked off site, right? Like that'd be terrible. So I'm afraid for my job too. So although it's different for the employees, but that's such a great question, Charlie. Ultimately still, and that's where this personal development comes into play. You've just got to read so much and be honest with yourself and be firm. And it comes back to you get more of what you tolerate. And so as soon as you start, tolerating people being late or damaging too much stuff, or insubordination, which is a harsh word, but like, if somebody says like, hey, I'm not working Friday, it's not happening, and says that in front of a group of people of the team, or says anything that is like completely, it's one thing to say it in a private meeting, which is still pretty gutsy, but to say that in front of a whole team and say something that's a rough morale issue like that, you've got to make an example of that situation and like, look, guys, this doesn't work this way. And also talking to that client or that employee of like, look, that's a private conversation if we're going to be so blunt and bold. It's really just setting rules, right? And when you say, this is the consequence, man, you better stick through it. And a great thing I had heard about management was, don't make, it's really bad to make stupid rules. It's really, it's bad to have to enforce stupid rules. It's worse to make stupid rules. So, make sure that the rules and all that stuff at the company are not just petty, trivial stuff, right? You kind of pick your battle to an extent, right? But there's still basic fundamentals of like, we have to, like a non-negotiable for us is like anyone that would ever disrespect a client or speak out of anger to a client or whatever, like I'll fire you on the spot. Like, I don't care if you're my longest term guy or whatever, you're gone. And our awesome guys in that regard have put up some real crap from our clients at times and have been still nothing but respectful and tolerant and dealt with it. And we've had some young guys that maybe weren't so much, and they're not at the company anymore. And it's just, there's non-negotiables there, right? We had a guy for a little while who was notoriously a few minutes late, and it was like, dude, you can't do this. It's making me look bad not enforcing this. I was like, and we had a long conversation about it. Like, you've got to stop this. And the other end of it I framed is like, it's all the old guard here, but as we grow and start bringing on new guys and young guys, this starts to set an example of, if they see you being late, the senior guy or the crew lead, they're going to think it's okay for them to be late too. And so I need you to knock that off and start operating as a leader should. And in so many words, I said that, and like that fixed that issue. So, you want to make sure that you're being the leader that's compassionate and like understanding and can talk your way through things, which is where the leadership development ends on your end. You have to become the best version of yourself you can be, so that you can talk to your team and empathize with your team and listen and understand where they're coming from, and still be the firm leader that's like, hey, I get where you're coming from, but this isn't how we can do things. And so when you say you're going to do something, man, you got to do it.
And I think like that's a massive thing, sticking to your word, so guys know you're not messing around. Like, we had you had the example of someone mentioning something with when everyone else is around, and it was absurd and rude and whatever, and they didn't show up on Monday, and they're gone now, and everyone's seeing that is like, oh shit, like these guys don't mess around and don't tolerate that. At the same time,
guys,
like,
it's one thing for them to say it. It's one thing for them to say it when you're not around and the leadership's not around. But if they say it, if they're speaking truth to power, if you will, like you cannot insubordinate like that. Like, if you're going to challenge the leader or the foreman or whatever publicly like that, that cannot be tolerated. It's one thing if all the guys are talking and, oh, I ain't coming in, I ain't doing this. It's one thing, to the fellow, crewman. But if they're doing, if they're doing that in a team meeting, that is not acceptable, right? Because somebody's got to lay the truth down. So yeah, cut you off, Charlie. Sorry.
No, I totally agree. And like, I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to this, of being almost desperate for guys. You're like, oh, but I don't have any more guys, or oh, I don't have any more options. And it's a continuous circle of failure, because then your standard's lowering. And this is when it's most important. Your standard is set because you're growing. And as these people catch on, then, new people it's going to be way easier to have them on board. Concept I was taught by a mentor was golden handcuffs, of like, they're so good, they're such a high performer, but you accept them showing up late, or you accept, their rude comments or some of their flaws that you wouldn't normally accept, and like making exceptions for people, even if they're super, super good. Again, I think it's a very, very transparent line, but going back to like, no, it's so important to have those standards set and just get good at recruiting. There's so many people out there. If that's really your concern, losing someone, I don't know. And I've learned that the hard way this season, especially. So, anyways,
Yeah, it's it really, Charlie, is exactly that. You can't, and I will not be held hostage by anyone that works for us ever. Like you're that's just not going to happen. There's no one here, including myself, that's not replaceable. And it sucks and it'd be hard sometimes and tough, but I know we started. I remember the last person I hired that was the last. He literally was the last bottom of the barrel person I would ever hire. And from then on, like, I'm only hiring foreman quality people or people that are capable of being that. I'm done hiring the guy that just needs a second chance, the guy that, I made some mistakes, and I'm done. I've the last dude, and I won't say his name. It doesn't matter. But like, this was years ago. But I was like, I will never hire another person that's not. And at the time, I thought it was like really growth minded and all that, but I realized it's not. But I was just like, I'll never hire someone that's not capable of being a foreman that isn't now or in the near future. And when I decided to stop hiring these dirt bags, I saw a tremendous change. It's just like saying no to the kind of work you don't want to deal with, or you're not excited to bid. It's the same. Like when you get those non-performers or low performers or bad apples out of the organization, and you can equate this to dating as well. You know what I mean? Like whatever, but like when you just say no more of this kind of person or just bad attitude or whatever, negative mindset, negative personality, whatever, like when you just cut that out and you start only bringing in people that are quality, and the same goes for clients. Like when you just start culling out the junk, you really see a big impact and for the positive. And when
it's your own self-respect, right? It's like, you're the best and we are the best, and that's what you vision and manifest and who you are and what you say to yourself in the mirror. But it's true of like, if you're going to put up with half-assed people, then what are you? It's just against yourself. So I think it all goes back to the personal development. Eh?
Yeah, it really does, dude. It really does. If you find yourself blaming other people for things, that's right there. First off, that's the first thing you got to work on is nope, it's your fault. Whatever it is, it's your fault. And you either tolerated it, you put up with it, you chickened out of saying what you needed to say. And I have done all of this, and I still make these basic mistakes. Like it's just always a process of just always trying to be better. And just the more you elevate yourself, you'll realize things are elevating around you too. If you're truly practicing what you preach.
It's self-mastery that's what it's called for a reason. There's no finish line. It never ends. And talking about accountability, we're going over our core values on our Monday chat yesterday, and the guys were like, yeah, whatever. We had a rain day today, and one of the guys comes in, he's like, yeah, guys, it's my fault. I apologize for the rain. And it was hilarious, but it's the point getting across of like, yeah, guys, it is your fault actually, So they like to have fun with that at the same time.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it. That's really cool, actually. We had a guy work for us that can remember the core values of a company he worked for 10 years ago. And I was like, interesting. And I've had a little trouble adapting that stuff because I've always felt like that was really corporate cheesy stuff. And so then I'm like, well, if I feel like that stuff's corporate cheesy, gobbledygook, like what wouldn't be? Like what would be a mission and core value set and all that stuff that I don't think would be cheesy and corny and all that people would still get behind, And so we've been working on that. We've kind of changed our core and missions and all that. And our kind of our mission and what we called our mission, which I'm told is not a mission, it's more of a mantra, but it was our do great work, live a great life. And it's like, you do great work because you live a great life, and you have a great life because you do great work. And that was kind of like, well, I was going to use like our mission. Like this is our mission, is do great work. And because of that, we can make good money, all of us, and have a great life. And so I'm working on like trying to figure out what all that stuff is that's not cheesy, that the guys wouldn't kind of smirk when they repeat or say or tell their friends what their core mission is at the company. Like I've been working on that real well. I say I haven't done that all year, but in the spring when we were really strategizing on that stuff, I was really thinking about that a lot. And it's not cheesy. It's all important stuff. It's people have got to understand. Because again, that's the kind of people you want working for you, is people that appreciate that in a company. If they don't appreciate that the company gives a crap, then they're not the right fit. right? And they're not the right person on the bus, and they got to get off the bus. And that's when you're talking about like
How much
hiring
of
like just a body. Don't stop. Just stop doing it. Just stop. It just is nothing but a
and
cancer in a company.
how much of like and we've honestly seen that way too much as well. Like it's so cheesy. We're construction workers. Like we're not supposed to be talking about mission statements and core values, whatever, and team building and all this stuff. Like how much of it has to come from the guys? Do you feel like what is an angle that can be taken opposed to just going to them and being like, guys, this is what we are.
Yeah, because there's a level of reality there, right? Of like some because again, but it is important that like they at least understand that this is important to you as the owner and it's important to the company, whether or not they understand it. And how you communicate that, I don't have a great answer for. But at where we're at in business now, where when you're starting up and it's mostly like super young people working for you, that stuff can be serious. But I can tell you, if you find the people that are like, hell yeah, I like that. That's cool. I think it's awesome that you put this much emphasis on, like the company mission or the core values of the company. Like that's awesome. You need to make sure you hang on to that person as long as you can, right? And that they bring the people they know that are good people. And you really have got to, at least, your biggest detractors, let's say, the people who think that's the stupidest and cheesiest, they've got to work their way out of the company. If you're really going down this road of like truly everyone here is an absolute killer, you've just got to start weeding out people that don't want to ride the bus to Awesomeville. And it's so easy to say all this shit. It's so much harder to implement it. Go ahead, Charlie.
Like how much lenience and how nice are you to them? Because there's so much is fluff is said in the interview. Everyone can talk. You go through this process, an onboarding process, and you have all these steps and this and that. You finally make your decision. You weed them out. And the first week, they're just like, it's awful. It's brutal. Like, how much do you give into them of the training or working with the mentality? And like, if you don't mind briefly touching on the onboarding process for you guys.
What I would say to that is like, okay, cool. The person slips through and turns out they're not as good as they said and all that. And I've had that happen. And we have been oversold and we have overbought. I'll put it that way. And ultimately, like, those people, that's why they say you're always hiring. Even when you're fully staffed, you've got a hiring sign out front. And like those people, okay, well, they really sold themselves well and I overbought. And but we're interviewing some people next week. And that's why like a probationary period is important. In your first, like we've got annual, like quarterly meetings with your team and quarterly private reviews, like in-person private reviews, where it's just like, you and a manager and that person, and you go over like, and Brittany's got an awesome thing for this that she does. And it's a great process. It's I hate to just plug something, Charlie, but I'm going to. Brittany and Alicia Brentzl have this thing called Primed for Growth, but it goes through a lot of this hiring process crap. But really what it comes down to is like, okay, well, they oversold and I overbought. They're tolerable for now, but in their review meetings, we're going to tell them like, hey, look, you said you were this, this, and this, and here it is 3 weeks later in a 3-week review or a 2-week review or whatever. I'm not seeing these things connect. Can you help me understand? And then the next, and then it's like, okay, well, we're going to work on this, right? Cool. We're going to work on this. We signed this agreement, whatever. Like these are our goals and objectives and outcomes and desired outcomes. Okay, 2-month review or 1-month review or whatever it is. Hey, this is what we said we work on at the last meeting. This is what I'm seeing. Talk to me about this. And again, these people will weed themselves out, or again, you're always hiring and you've got, the 4-month probationary period, this isn't working out. We worked on these things that you said you were coming here to do in the company. This isn't working out. And this is why we're gonna have to terminate employment with you. And that is, if you've never fired anyone, that is one of the hardest things to do, unless you're a psychopath. I think anyways, especially if they're a decent person. If they're a decent person, but they're not just jiving with the company. Yeah. I've had to fire some guys in the past that were like, man, they meant well, but gosh, they just couldn't hack it. We had to let them go. Like that was some hard stuff. The guys that are jerks and punks and arrogant, like they're easy to fire. That's not a big deal. But like some of the guys are like trying.
Always a fun conversation.
Yeah, it's never fun. You don't know what it's going to turn to in a parking lot. It's never fun. Like if you've got any sense about you, like who knows where this thing's going to go. Like, but it's like it's one of those things, man. You're just constantly processing the team, and this takes so long, guys, and like everybody listening, it's something we're years into this, and we're still really just starting to get a handle on as we're really trying to grow. And we've got again, the old guard, if you will, where we're bringing in new people, and we're gonna try to amalgamate them in, but this just takes time. It's nothing you figure out year one. It's nothing you figure out year two. It's a process of learning like what you tolerate, what you don't, and how lenient you are. I mean, be a reasonable person, but at the same time, like if you've set goals and objectives that are X, Y, Z, and the team or a team member is not aligning with these goals and objectives, like they're not going to help you get to your goal and objective. They have to go. It's easier said than done. Yeah. And that's why coaching is so easy and awesome, because you can tell everybody else what you should do, right? What I'd do if I were you, that kind of stuff. It's way harder to do it yourself. And so this is stuff, it just takes a lot of time, man. Personal. And again, that's why as a leader, you're just constantly reading about how to be the best you and how to best deal with people. And it will just benefit you so much. The better you learn how to communicate and deal with people and read emotion and deal with folks, because we're in the people business. That's all we are. We think we're landscapers. We think we're pizza cottage owners or whatever, pizza shop owners. Dude, we're just people managers. That's it. At the end of the day. And the better your people management skills are, that will have direct dividends to your bottom line.
Yeah, it's just reps. Like, it's embarrassing to say, one of our hardscape crews this year is amazing, killed it. Foreman was lovely. And then our second hardscape crew, we have just been weeding through hardscape leaders and like foremans, probably I think on our fourth. But how expensive at the same time valuable the experience of continuously going through this process and like seeing what we need, seeing what we're doing wrong, and keep looking in the mirror regardless of how bad the experience was or how frustrated we are. I think it's just reps, and regardless whether it's a plumbing business or you're an electrician or a landscaper, $100 million company is going to look the exact same. You're going to have your direct reports, and that's it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You're dealing with people, and you're looking at numbers. That's it. So, I think there's framing is so important.
You bet.
Anyways, before we wrap this up, Caleb, final question: a standard you're able or that you do hold everyone to, whether it's personally or also within the business?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just like owning up to breaking something or hitting something or damaging something. I think that's something our guys are have always been really good at. Is just like, hey, we somebody threw a freaking shovel off the truck this summer, and the thing bounced and hit the siding on the house and damaged the siding. And it's just like, but they're like, hey, just want you to know, I threw a shovel off the truck. Shouldn't have thrown off the truck the way I threw it. And they weren't like out of anger. They just tossed it off the truck, and it just bounced like this freak bounce, hit the siding, damaged the siding, got to replace the siding, blah, blah, blah. Like, just the guys owning up to when there's a mistake made, because there's mistakes made every day, right? And so like, hey, get a call, hey, we backed into this, or this happened, or somebody ran over this, or smashed a shrub, or just whatever. Like, that's something that's always been a non-negotiable for the company. One thing I've done right for a long time, I would say, is like, but part of that I would credit, I have screwed up more than I'll probably ever make right, but like, or made more mistakes than I can ever not make mistakes, if that makes any sense. Because I've also lost more money than I'll probably ever make back, I feel like. But it's being somebody that you would want to work for. And so like, when I worked by myself, I broke stuff all the time, right? Like I'd back over this, or I'd scratch that, or whatever. And I knew, like, I had the vision enough to know, like, for every person I hired, that's a multiplier, right? My first guy, okay, that's going to double the amount of stuff that just happens, this silly stuff. Okay, we got 4 guys. 4 times the amount of stuff's going to get broken now as it used to. Some guys are better than others about it, breaking things and hitting things and whatever. But like, the guys not being afraid to tell you that, hey, we backed over this, or hit this, or scratched the truck, and not worried that the owner's going to fly off the handle or be silly or be taken out of their pay or any stupid crap like that. Like, so that is a way to, like, they know they can always come to you and not get berated or take an earful for, some stupid mistake they made. Like 4 or 5 years ago, we're on a commercial job replacing those concrete basins in the parking lots at like name your big box store or whatever. And we were taking out like 6 on this job and redoing them before the paving companies came through. And I'm looking at the plans. Okay, cool. This one gets demoed. I went out and tore this thing out, and I looked at it. I'm like, man, that thing's kind of new. I can't believe they're having us take it out. Didn't think anything more of it. But the whole time, I'm like, gosh, can't believe they're having us take this out. I didn't check the plans. I didn't check with our superintendent that was managing the job. I just keep ripping it out. And finally, I really look at the plans, and everything's gone and it's out. And I look at the plan, and then I'm like, it's blatantly obvious it's not that basin that gets torn out. Like, stupid obvious. It's so stupid. I would have a hard time believing, like, if one of my guys did this, of like, dude, seriously, how'd you think this was on the plan? Like, where did you get this idea? And so I see myself make a mistake like that, and I believe it's God's way of humbling me to realize, like, there's going to be things happen that are inexplicably stupid, right? I pray to God all the time, Lord, please teach me the lessons I need to learn gently enough that grow me and make me a tougher and better individual, better business person, better father, better husband. Teach me the lessons I need to learn, and teach me in a way that's as gentle as I possibly can have it, to not have to learn another like hard lesson. For example, there's your tie-in, because I've been bankrupt. I've lost good employees. I've wrecked vehicles. I've just, you name it, whatever. And so when something like that happens, I believe it's God telling me and teaching me, or the way I'm going to interpret it, at least, is like, hey, you are not above making the stupidest of stupid errors ever. And so then that helps me have compassion and leniency on my team when there's something that happens. It's just like, how on earth did this happen? And that keeps me grounded.
Staying level-headed, of like you alluded to, how you handle that, I think, is huge. And
oh yeah,
like the
it's
guys
everything.
need to know that the guys need to know they're safe to come to you, and just, it's like, okay, not safe. That's not the right word to use, but like they're come to you. It's straight facts. It's okay. Let's solution based. Let's figure it out. On the other side of the spectrum, of if they know you just don't care, or you're too nice, they could not care as well, right? There has to be some level of competence, or maybe keeping track of it, or something. And it's all a fine line. And we talk about being a transparent line somewhere else in this conversation, of like, it's always a yin and yang. So anyways, as we all figure this out, it's a journey with no finish line. So I love the nuggets, and appreciate you coming on, Caleb. Where can people find you? You seem to be all over these days.
Charlie, thank you, man. I appreciate it. We have all the social media channels at Auman Landscape LLC on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok. And we have a podcast called Kid Contractor. And we have a thing called Together in the Trades that's aimed at helping spouses or couples navigate being in business together and not kill each other. So that's a thing there we do. I'm trying to think for something else. We do a lot. We do too much, but we're working on navigating through it. And I'm just trying to tie up all my loose ends of something I said to her. Like, when I listen to this, I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't mean it that way, or I said it this way. But I do want to reiterate the fact we do great work. Our guys do great work, and I'm not a horrible leader. I'm not the best. I got a long ways to go, but I'm working on it. And hopefully I can cover all my bases with that. And like, we're just always working at being better and guiding our team to be better. And we're learning just always ways to do that better and better. And so, Charlie, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on the show here and share these hard lessons. That's always been my mission when it comes to social media, is to help. If I can help someone else not make the same mistakes I've made in one way or another, then that's a successful mission to me when it comes to social media.
A lesson without the scar, right? That's the goal, giving back.
That literally is my prayer.
I think it just comes from. Yeah, I think it comes from your guys' humbleness. Like, you actually do have a very tight ship ran. We've been at your guys' facility. It's beautiful. But you dissect it to being real in the facts. I think that's very rare these days. Everyone's like, oh, look at my facility, my equipment. I've got all these people, got this big revenue number, but there's nothing left over at the end of the year. I think you guys I really respect that out of you and Brittany. You're straight to the point. Anyways, I appreciate you coming on, Caleb, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Charlie, I want to wish you the best, man. You got great work ethic. You're doing big things yourself, and I just look forward to seeing where you're at in 5 years and 10 years. As you keep on the trajectory you're on now, working hard and listening to smart people like Mark Bradley and all the other people I see interviewing and talking to, you aren't going to believe where you're at in 5 years. You won't believe where you're at in 10 years. And it's going to be really cool what the future has for you. Keep it up, man.
Thank you, Caleb.
Have a great one.